everyone. It's 7:02. I'm going to begin our meeting. Sorry for the delay. Welcome to the March 27th, 2023 regular meeting of the Beacon City School District Board of Education. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Vicki. I remembered. Here.
Mr. Galloway?
Here.
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 Mr. White?
Excused.
Mr. Wolf?
Here.
Ms. Snagler?
Here.
Ms. Hero?
Here. Thank you. Matt, can you review the fire exits, please?
Exits are in the back of the LGI.
Thank you. Open to the public. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to make a public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to our workshops. We have 5 workshops tonight. First, we're going to hear from Anna Sullivan, who is the chair of the Foundation for Beacon Schools, about their teacher grant program. Okay.
All right, thank you so much for having me. I'm not sure if this microphone is on or if you need it, but I just wanted to stop in and say hello and to let you know what the foundation has been up to. Most recently, at our last board meeting, we awarded our spring 2023 round of educator grants, and often we just send you a list, which I actually forgot to send to Meredith. If someone could start passing those around, I'd really appreciate it. But really wanted to put some visuals to all the amazing work that our educators are doing in the district. There's many, many more than those who applied for foundation funding, but these are grants that were awarded in the most recent cycle. So at Beacon High School, there were 5 projects that the foundation was able to support, either partially or in full. The first is a marine biology aquarium field trip and course project. There was one trip in the fall semester, and the spring semester class will have another opportunity to go to the aquarium. They come back and create displays about what they've learned, and it looks like a really amazing and hands-on opportunity. The second project is a science research class, which apparently is a newer class for the district. They are working up toward their first annual symposium to showcase the kind of science research that they're able to do. And they asked for some support to get that going. So we're very excited to see how that goes and learn about it. 2 more trips at Beacon High School. One is a trip, it's a field trip for band and chorus students who will have the opportunity to go to a music recording studio down in Peekskill, which has a lot of vocational applications, and it sounds like it'll tie in really well with what they've been learning. And also new is an astronomy club that is trying to get off the ground at the high school here. Mr. Sansone reached out, and he is looking for equipment that will support both an after-school club, but also the regular earth sciences and astronomy classes that he's teaching. And finally, at the high school, a German language and culture after-school club to support activities related to the German exchange that happened earlier this year. So a lot of exciting things at the high school. We moving on to the elementary schools, we had some applications from Sargent. Ms. Sanderson is going to be working on owl pellet dissection, which apparently gives students a good insight into the feeding habits of owls in the Hudson Valley. So that sounds pretty cool. And Ms. Black and Ms. Lazuski are working on an egg hatch project with their class. Glenham Elementary School is installing a new portable 3D Lego building board. We saw that JVF applied for funding for one of these resources last year, and Ms. Coleman, the librarian at JVF, said it's been in heavy demand, and really allows a lot of flexibility for project work. And Ms. Dunnigan is working on a new sensory hallway at Glenham. This was an application here from Ms. Mattis, the band teacher at both Glenham and JVF. And those fifth grade band students will be going, hopefully, to see a production of The Life of Pi, which features a lot of very original instrumentation and music from India and around the world. And her goal is to really inspire fifth graders who've been working for a few years now on their band instruments, and inspire them to stay interested in music and hopefully take band as they move up into middle school. So those were the grants that we've just awarded in this round. Just over $7,000 to date. We've just gone over the $20,000 mark. We're still a young organization, but we're really excited to steward support from individual donors, from businesses, and corporations to support all the exciting enrichment activities that are happening here in the district. And just wanted to say thank you to the board and to all of our educators for providing these great opportunities for our students. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
I just think it's amazing that the chorus and the band kids get to go on like a trip. You know, you don't think too much when you think band or chorus. So to have this opportunity to request the funding to do something like that, I think is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very. All of the proposals were so exciting, and as we continue to grow, we hope we can just keep supporting more ideas like this.
Are you having to turn? Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Are you having to turn down applications? Are you getting that many applications at this point, or?
We did have, for the first time, I think we did have to make some tough decisions, but we're also looking at creative ways that we could maybe get some in-kind donations to support applicants whose projects could not be funded by us in this cycle. But yeah, we're hoping that our fundraising can keep pace with all the great ideas of our teachers.
Yeah.
I was just going to say thank you, and I think it's important for us as administrators to look at some of these individual projects and see which ones over time that we can scale up. Like owl pellets, like is there a grade where every class should be doing that over time? I think that's a really cool one, so I'm mentioning that
I
one.
know.
Or even trips too. Like part of our strategic planning process is like, how do we don't want to stifle innovation, but how do we make sure over time that like more kids or all kids have access to some of these things? So trips like the trip to Broadway, like if that's something that is successful, is that something that we try to become part of what fifth graders experience in the district, So anyway, I think part of the foundation in their partnership with us is they're almost like an innovation lab, where teachers can try things out, and then we watch it and see if we can scale it up. And so thank you.
Thank you very much. And just one last thing, I know you have a busy night, but our kind of big event of the year is the BCSD Student Film Festival. It's also one of our biggest fundraisers, and the money raised from that goes straight into our teacher grant fund. So it's both an enrichment opportunity for students, but it's also ties back into the teacher grant project. If any board members have any students in their life from K through 12 who might be interested, I'm just passing along the flyer for the submission deadline, which is April 17th, for students to submit a 2-minute short film. And the festival itself is going to be on Saturday, May 13th here in the high school. So please support it. It was a wonderful event last year, and we're looking forward to seeing more people at the next one.
Anna, thank you so much for everything you're doing. It's really
thank you so much.
such an important part of the district.
Thanks so much.
Okay, moving on to our next workshop, we have Karen DeCandia, our Spanish teacher, here to talk about a big trip.
Good evening. So I'm here to talk to you all about hopefully being able to take students on a trip to Costa Rica next spring break. So I've been meeting with the liaison through the company, and she put together this PowerPoint presentation, and it's very long, so I'm going to try and make it sort of short and sweet. So there's a little video that I'm going to show. Am I in the right spot, or is it this one? This one? Yep. Okay. So this is these are parents that are talking about their children going on a tour through EF Tours, but abroad. So.
You see me?
Can't see you, no.
It says, okay, there I go. I don't know what I did, but I did something. I think that the EF Tours help kids be willing to try new things and do new things and be more accepting and willing to explore new cultures and new people. Because I can see her blooming. I can see her little bud and her bloom getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
You know, as parents, like you're writing checks for all these things that you do, soccer plays, show choir, whatever it is that you're doing. This, to me, when I look back now that my kids are in college, is the best thing we did for our kids.
The kids are really very much experiencing things that we as a family could not create on our own because we just don't have that access.
It's certainly worth it, and I mean, the price is real. That's what it costs to get to Europe, get to South Africa, get around the world, to eat and have bus transportation, and to do things. So, of course, it's going to cost.
But then you think about, they're all paying us over the course of many, many months. Yeah, we can handle this.
The payment plans were awesome because it made it affordable. It made it reasonable.
Paying on the trip at the beginning really was almost like I didn't even see it and feel it, and I appreciated that.
It was just so easy to decide the payment option, to have the capability of having friends and family, help fund the trip.
Empowers us to be able to give our children an experience that we know that will help them become more rounded person, complete person.
I wanted her to practice those skills that I hope that I taught her in independence and being self-sufficient and making decisions for herself.
It's feet on the ground learning the whole time you're there. You're learning about food, culture, you're learning simple things like how to navigate an airport, how to deal with people who are grumpy, how to take care of yourself, find yourself a snack.
Set their own alarm, wake up, get dressed, pack their bags, and be ready to be out by a certain time.
Money exchanges, how to deal with money, and how to flush the toilet in Venice, or what to expect before you get off the bus. Those are the things that middle school, high school kids need to know right away.
The ability to go and experience things is great growth. It's an investment for life.
Okay, so let's see if I can do this. So I have been wanting to do this for a very long time, and thankfully Dr. Landau has hopefully going to make this all happen. So, and the board as well. So I would love to take students to Costa Rica and maybe other places beyond that next year. So we'll see. According to the liaison with EF Tours, she seems to think that we next year could take more than one group, but we'll see. The plan is Costa Rica, and then maybe in the future, more than one trip. So there's another video that students are depicted in, and you can watch that at your leisure if you would like to. So I have chosen Costa Rica's Natural Wonders, which is a a 7-day tour of Costa Rica, and you can see some of the things like zip lining through the canopy, the rainforest canopy, and snorkeling, and taking a cooking class with locals, and then visiting a national park, going to the Arenal region, and yada, yada, yada. Sounds awesome. I'm so excited about it, and looking forward to hopefully getting this approved so that we can get it going. So these are the sort of estimated dates. We're hoping that it will be the March 23rd to March 29th date, but if we give them a little more, I don't know, room to wiggle, we can make it really happen. Sorry, I don't like doing these presentations. Adults. Anyway, so this is what's included. Pretty much everything, hotel stays, round trip airfare, bus trip everywhere, 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which some companies don't offer. Local guides, sightseeing, entrances to landmarks and attractions. The things that are not included would be passports, baggage fees, getting to and from the airport, and any tips, which we will be helped with that from the company, and maybe some snacks. It says some meals, but in Costa Rica, all 3 meals are included. In some European tours, they don't offer all 3 meals. So what else? They happen to have an office in San Jose, which is the capital of Costa Rica. So if there's ever any kind of issue, we have people on the ground, or they have people on the ground in the country. 24/7 tour director and chaperone team support, so someone is with us at all times on the tours. I don't know, you can read about this. There's also an education component to this after coming back from the trip. If students would like to earn half a high school credit or 3 college credits, there's options for that beyond just going on the trip. If that's something that they're interested in, they are an accredited institution, which is wonderful. This is their outcomes. And I actually went on a trip when I was in high school at Beacon High many, many years ago. And I feel like all 4 of these outcomes, I felt like I experienced them. You know, I was able to embrace new challenges. It was my first time being away from home when I was in high school. I was able to expand my worldview and discover more about myself, and just, it was a wonderful experience for me. So hoping that our Beacon High School students can experience this as well. I don't know what else to say. I just hope that it happens. Anyone have any questions?
Is it just for high school students or middle school and high school?
So we were talking about this, and I think that, I don't know. We were talking about juniors and seniors right now. I don't know if we should open it up to 9th and 10th graders.
Personally, I would love to go on this trip.
But it's for next year. Yeah. I don't know if we can make that happen for kids.
Alums.
Anyway, I forgot to tell you, the price tag, that's a big deal. And insurance. So they offer a protection policy, and there is like an additional policy that parents or guardians could pay for that would, God forbid, somebody had to cancel last minute, they could. But if the trip is actually canceled because of, for example, I know a teacher who was supposed to go to Italy and Spain over winter break, where they have, not Beacon, but other schools have that week off in February or whatever, and JFK shut down that week. So they weren't, that was the day they were supposed to leave. So their trip was canceled, and they were able to reschedule it for next week. So they offer that type of protection, and of course, lots of other things too. Anyway, what else? Oh, one thing that every traveler who enrolls gets sort of like a GoFundMe type of page that they could send out to family and friends to help them get contributions to help fund their trip or partially fund their trip. They also offer scholarships, $100,000 in scholarships each year. So if there are any students who were interested in going and couldn't necessarily afford it, they could apply for the scholarships. So that's an option. And maybe the, the Beacon
Foundation.
Thank you. Foundation for Beacon Schools could possibly get involved in that too.
And this is the same organization that we've been doing the DC trip with, right? So it's an organization we have experience
Yeah.
with.
I just want to jump in.
Yes.
Just about a couple things. Just one in terms of board process. Karen wants to do like an information session in the next month or so. Tonight's not like the formal approval of this. We'd probably have some sort of agreement with the company that the board would vote on a little bit later this year. Tonight's more informational for us to get like the kind of like nod, go ahead to see if parents are interested. The other thing, we're just talking about price. These are expensive trips. The district I was in previous to here, Ithaca, we probably had 4 or 5 international trips a year. And so one of the things that the district and the board really emphasize is there going to be fundraising or ways for students who need assistance or scholarship? Is there ways to access that? And we want to, Karen talked about some of the things the company does. I think it could be something we partner with the foundation on. I think there's some things we can do a little bit creatively as a school district, not to offer this to hundreds of kids, but like to expand the reach just a little bit. So that's important to us, and we want to work on that plan. And then, lastly, and, a million years ago when I was in high school, our high school offered trips like this. We could not, me and my sisters could not afford to go on these. Like, our parents couldn't afford to send us. However, then I went to a private college with a lot of financial assistance, and I actually was able to go on a trip where they basically almost paid me to go because of all the financial assistance. Like, we want to make sure like that we have some mechanism that a student who can't afford it and really wants to go, like, we want to be able to figure that out and support some students to go. But it's not a huge trip. It's not 100 kids. It's probably like, what are we shooting for? 20 maybe?
She seems to think we can get at least 20 kids to go. Which
Okay.
would be amazing.
So like it's smaller in nature, but we do want to be clear that we want to try to help families that feel like they would need assistance to go. Like, we really want that to be part of the messaging. And then lastly, Karen undersold this. She really has been wanting to do this for a long time. And we were really thinking of doing it a few years ago, and the pandemic hit, and we put everything on the back burner. But I just appreciate your persistence and hanging in there with us to maybe finally get a chance to do this again in the district. Sorry for my little interjection
show the
there.
cost?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, do the students have to have taken Spanish to go on the trip?
I don't think that should be a prerequisite, personally. So I would say no. Okay. So there is a $95 enrollment fee. I will tell you, she told me the price is going up April 1st, but if we could lock in, so we have to have a meeting, and then at the meeting, when parents, we advertise it, and parents come to the parent meeting, there's a $95 enrollment fee, and then they will offer this price here if you enroll by, I think that's within 5 days of the meeting. And
that's
I
on
think,
April 1st?
Pardon me?
Because it's March 27th.
No, so they're going to forego the price increase if we have a meeting in April and get this thing going. So they're going to wait till the end of April for us, because we've been talking about this for a few months now with, I've interviewed a few different companies, and we decided on EF Tours. So anyway, yeah, so I don't know what the approval process is all about.
I think tonight is like informational. We're getting kind of like the nod, go ahead to have the informational meeting. I think the approval process for the board happens a little bit later, but if there's a group of parents involved, if we feel like we can support some number of students in some way, like through some collaborative efforts, you know, I think the formal approval would be probably a contract with this company that the board votes on at some point. If, you know, I mean, this is new to me here a little bit, so I'm trying to make sure we do it right too, but we wanted to just do this informational so Karen could have her parent meeting soon.
And kind of pretend like we're going to make this happen until we get full on approval? Is that okay?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead, right, and I think if we have people interested, then I think it should be.
Yeah.
Yes.
We should be good to go.
How is it decided who goes? What's the process for that?
Who goes on the trip? I don't think we should turn anyone away who wants to go. We were talking about opening up to juniors and seniors as it kind of being a sort of culminating experience for them in high school. And age-wise, we thought, I've been talking with a few other teachers, and we thought that that would be best, but I don't think we would turn anyone away who wanted to go and could afford to go for sure. And as far as those who wanted to go and maybe couldn't afford it, then that's where the creativity comes in.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing is how do you maintain our stance of equity in a situation where they've got price tags like that?
I mean, I think it's a great idea to work with the foundation and to work within sort of what we can do. I think it'll be important for us to communicate up front really clearly. Like, don't let the cost be a barrier for you. Like, we don't want this to be a delimiter of the students who go or the students who can afford to go. Like, let's just be clear at the top. Like, we'll find a way to make it happen.
And the company does offer scholarships as well, so that's another option that is a possibility.
I would also like to say that I feel like students, when they see a trip or an opportunity as amazing as this, they would 100% be willing to fundraise. A lot of times they just need that little push or that motivation from the teachers to help them find their path and like how to go about doing that. And I know a lot of teachers do, I think, Gertrude Hawk fundraisers, and they end up raising a lot of money. So as long as there's a way for students to fundraise, I think they'll be able to raise enough money to sort of lower that cost. Because this is an amazing opportunity. I think it'll be the first time that a lot of students will be away from their parents, and for them to be able to learn a new language, learn a new culture, and just see all of these amazing new tourist areas. I feel like it would be great. I would love to go on this trip, so hopefully this gets approved.
Me too. And they do have the
I wanna
monthly
be able to go,
plan
but,
thing that can sort of help.
Well, and this is ahead of time. You know, there's time to plan, there's time to save, there's time to kind of like figure out ways.
That's
to
why I
support
feel
it
it's important
further.
for us to have the meeting as soon as
Yeah.
possible so they can start, you know, doing a monthly payment plan, getting some
I agree.
fundraising, doing
Yeah.
their little sort of GoFundMe kind of thing for friends and family and
Yeah, and
others
it's in
to-
time to get a summer job to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it might be the motivation.
That's how I
that, you
traveled.
know,
Yeah.
I've had
Great idea.
summer jobs.
Work always works. It makes money.
Any other questions?
Well, I'm very excited to hear about it, and thank you for being willing
Thank
to
you
do
for
it.
letting me speak, and look forward to making it happen. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay, our next workshop is with our transportation department with Deb Call.
Is it on the mouse? Yep. So hi, I'm Deb Quald for transportation. Right now, our vehicles we have about 29 buses, 2 large wheelchair buses, and 28 vans, and 6 wheelchair vans. We have about 30 active drivers, with 3 of our drivers on leave, 4 sub-drivers, 16 active bus monitors, 2 monitors on leave, 3 sub-monitors, 1 dispatcher, 2 head bus drivers, 1 head mechanic, 3 mechanics under him, 1 supervisor, and 1 secretary. And the reason I'm mentioning the drivers on leave is because it looks like in numbers we have all these drivers when we really don't. Most of them are, like I said, some of them are out on leave, and high absenteeism. So for this school year, we've been doing about 17 in-district runs and 15 out-of-district runs, which then we put about 11 of our buses out onto our Dutchess County BOCES Co-op, which is a program that we share with Dutchess County and all the schools in the area. A lot of Arlington, Poughkeepsie, Wappingers, we all share to go to the out-of-district schools, and the cost is all shared. This year we have installed the bus patrol. I'm sure everybody heard of the bus patrol with stopping the cars from going through our reds. In the month of February, we put out, or they did, about 198 tickets were not given out. So, but there was 198 pictures taken of vehicles that have gone through our reds, which could potentially be a kid crossing a street. So it's like, this is a big thing in transportation to stop our drivers from going through our red lights. Out of those 198, less than half of the people actually got tickets. They have a program where once the picture is taken, it is then sent to the county, looks at it themselves, and they have retired police officers checking over all the videos to make sure there is nothing that, like, the driver did wrong, or the sun was shining in their eyes, or anything, in order to give the ticket. So less than half of the pictures taken are actually given out for the tickets. With this, they've also installed the cameras in our buses, which they're pretty good, a little difficult to get out of the buses, and I can also watch live. So if something's going on in the bus, a driver can call me and immediately say, you need to look, so I can go in and look at what's going on their buses. One of the things we want to change is the walking distance to school. Right now we have 1.5 miles. There's no crossing guards at a lot of the intersections. Myself, have been filling in driving, and I see kids just running, and they don't even, at crosswalks, they don't stop. And the absenteeism in the school, especially on rainy days, snowy days, the kids stay home. Now, to change it to a mile would be the less need for any crossing guards, better attendance in our schools. At the different levels, it'll add about 80 students at the high school level onto the buses, about 14 from Rombout, 2 from Glenham, 8 from JVF, 14 from Sargent, and 15 from South. This might increase our bus runs maybe by 1, maybe. I'd have to see what the numbers are for next year. So our vehicle needs, as of right now, are we'd like to get 3 large buses, 72 passengers, at a cost of, the total cost is up there, with a 20, and then 20 passenger, 2 20-passenger vans, both gas buses. We wanted to go for the extra big bus because of field trips and stuff, and the miles that our big buses put on are a little bit greater than our vans. Now, electric buses. We would like to start with 1 bus, pending grants. So this would be the cost of 1 bus with the charger with no grants. It's a level 2 charger with a 5-year warranty. This would be the total cost. There's a lot of grants out there. Everything is changing almost daily on what we can get. It goes away and then more come in, and there's a lot to it. Right now, we have 2 large buses that we would like to surplus and trade in because of mileage and the work that needs to be done to them. And we have 3 vans that we would like to trade in, again, because of high mileage and the different work that needs to be done. This is our budget from last year to this year. Not much of a change at all. What is about $40 change, somewhere around there. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
I have an observation. We're getting over 200,000 miles out of some of these vehicles. That's pretty good.
Our mechanics are excellent. They're very good.
Are you?
Lasts forever. So
How short are you on drivers? How bad is it?
Some days it's pretty bad. Some days we're all out driving and we leave our typist in the office to answer phones and the radios, including myself.
Yeah, and I guess we're just continually trying to hire more and.
Yeah, all the time. We just hired. We just got one guy licensed, and he's up and driving, and he passed his test, and he's going now. He's probably about 2 weeks. He's started.
So there was about a 10% increase in the overall budget, and that appears to be all in the salary line. Is that due to contract, or is it due to increasing staff? Or
It's their contractual salary increase.
okay. So there's no intent to increase like the substitutes,
Well, we have
or what?
the budget amount for last year includes that we are fully staffed. So we will probably come in under budget in salaries this year, but we've also increased the amount that BOCES co-op is helping us do out-of-district placement for special education.
Do you offer any trainings for your bus drivers?
Yes, we do. We all the way through, from the beginning to the end.
On every aspect, like the social, the emotional, the being on the bus, which, like sometimes you think of training of just the route that they're taking or, that, but like for your monitors rather, like all the staff that fall under you, they all get different types of training.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We actually have state mandated training several times a year that we have to do. I just got done teaching a 10-hour monitor basic class that they have to have. Drivers do a 50-hour class. Then every year there's a startup meeting, which is the state gives us what we're teaching. And next week we're having our refresher. So there's 2 state mandated. Plus there's all the 19A testing that has to be done. So every year a driver is every year we either ride with a driver or follow a driver so they don't know we're behind them. And again, this is all run by the state. Every 2 years they have a written, and then every 2 years they also go through like you would getting your license. We do everything with them, from pre-trip to we cover anything you would to get your license. We do that twice a year with them, plus a physical performance test that has to be done every 2 years. I like to teach the drivers, especially the drivers. I want a bus driver, not just somebody to steer the bus. I want a bus driver.
I was gonna say, do you have any like emotional support check-ins? Because I know, I can't imagine obviously being on a bus and just the students and the different types of students that come in every year, and just having like an emotional check-in to see where, your staff is, your bus drivers, your monitors, just to make sure that they're okay.
They know they can come into me anytime. My door is always open. Because they come in, in the morning and then they come back in the afternoon. No matter what I'm doing, I drop what I'm doing and I'm there for the drivers if they need me.
Heather or Saki, hadn't we either done something for monitors or planning on doing something to help? So safety care training, but bus monitors.
So safety care training, yes, so we've done TAs and aides, we've been working through that. We're looking at teachers, but making it broader to the monitors on the buses and drivers as well, yeah.
Okay.
I can tell more about it in my presentation.
So that's just a program that will give the people working more directly with kids on a bus like some tools in the toolbox to work with different behaviors and that kind of thing. And I think that's something that's really been asked for a lot too from folks. Right.
We do have that at the state level too. They give us, it's called PJ's Law that we have to follow. I don't know, did you ever hear of PJ's Law? It started, I want to say in the 70s, where a special ed student was being bullied by the bus driver and the monitor. And so they have this new law now called PJ's Law that really protects our children on our buses that everybody has to go through. I have to teach every year some type of, so that's what I'd like to check with you on what you're going to do. But we do have to do that every year with monitors and drivers because not everybody has a monitor on their bus.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know it's obviously we want to protect our students, but I'm also curious protecting our bus monitors and, you know, making sure that they're good as well. So, yeah.
Yes. Yep.
This might be an obvious question, but why is there such a shortage of bus drivers?
I don't know. I've been doing it since I was 21 years old and I raised my family doing it. And it's a great job and it's a little difficult to get and it's part-time and a lot of people don't want the responsibility.
What is that are people telling you like when they do turn down a job? And we do know that there's, you know, higher pay in some other places, but are there any reasons why someone might start the training and then say they just don't feel like they're going to pursue it? What's the reason why they scrub out?
Yeah, I haven't run into it here, but I've in the past had people that I was training who it just wasn't for them. There was if I don't feel that I could put my children or my grandchildren on a bus and feel safe with that, then I didn't pursue the training any further. I'd have a talk with them about it, and because it's not for everybody. Not everybody can do it. It's like driving your car with 70 kids behind you.
Yeah, I guess what would be helpful to know is is there anything that we should be aware of that maybe we could help?
Tell your friends. Stay-at-home moms are the best because you get a little extra money. You get to take your kids to school. You get to go to their sporting events. That's why I got into it, and I just loved it because I raised my family doing this, and I was there for them, and I still considered myself a stay-at-home mom, and I made a little bit of extra money.
Well, are current drivers living in Beacon, or are they coming from farther out?
Most of them are from Beacon.
Okay.
What does the typical workday schedule look like?
They start arriving about 5:45, and then they're done about 9:30. Most of them. This is our general times. And then in the afternoon, they start getting there about 1:30. And depending on if it's a RISE program day or what it is, some drivers aren't done till about 6:30. Some. It all varies on which route they get. And they get to pick their routes by seniority.
Any other questions?
No, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deb.
Thank you.
Our next presentation is from our PPS director, Heather Chadwell-Dennis.
All right. So, hello, everyone. I'm Heather Chadwell-Dennis. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Pupil Services here in Beacon. So I'm going to just give you the highlights of what this presentation is. So what I'll be doing is going through the number of students we have supported under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the staffing that we are recommending to support students in Beacon, looking at our current BOCES programming and the projected cost, the specialized programs that are also needed for programming for children and the cost. We'll look at those combined costs together. There's some miscellaneous projected costs, which I'll go through, contractual services. There's a number of federal grants, the 611 and 619 grant. We'll look at Medicaid revenue that offsets the general funds, and then the overall projected budget for the pupil services, some highlighted professional development, which I'll review safety care, which we touched on very briefly, and then a grant that we've received from the Foundation from Beacon. So these are our current students that are being supported in district. So if you look at the top right, there's 73 students supported under their IDEA. So at our elementary building, we have approximately 183 students with IEPs. Rombout, we have 110. Beacon High School, 58. Brings us a total of 451. If you look at the district in totality, we have 37 children that are receiving their program through the Committee on Special Education in a location outside of the Beacon City School District. We have 104 preschoolers. That is a huge number. 11 parentally placed, that's New Covenant and Hudson Hills. 9 children are homeschooled, and 2 are homeschooled through the CSE due to medical needs. So a very specialized program. So our current staffing for special education teachers, we currently have 54. Next year we're projecting 53. But in some of that, some things that we're pondering, because you have to consider we're right in the middle of annual reviews right now. So, we aren't 100% sure where the programming is going to land in June, but we know that some of the needs are our UPK, our preschool committee on preschool students, transition services at the high school, and children who are in New Covenant and Hudson Hills receiving special education programming through parental placement. Currently, we have 6 speech pathologists. We are predicting we'll need 6 next year. 1 is retiring, so we will be in the hiring process. We've already posted and have a number of applicants. We currently have 3.5 occupational therapists, and we have 1 full-time person on a contract. We're making the recommendation that it stay the same number, but we hire that person in the BTA unit, which we also have put out postings for both OT and PT, and we're waiting for the civil service lists to come in for those. But again, the same 1.5 physical therapist currently, we're recommending the same. However, rather than it being on a contract, we're looking at it to be inside the unit. We currently have 8 social workers here in Beacon, and we're recommending that there be 9. So we would have a full-time person, adding it to Rombout and Beacon High School. And then we would go down 1 full-time equivalent in the area of psychology. So for students who are currently at BOCES settings, receiving their educational services, each one of these, Dutchess BOCES, OU BOCES, Ulster, and PNW, have very different programs, specialized programs. So that's why there might be 1 student here at OU BOCES, because Dutchess BOCES might not offer that program, or the program might be full. So we currently have 14 students receiving program through Dutchess BOCES, or through BOCES locations. And this is the projected cost. So for the 22-23 school year, we projected the cost at 1.7. We are projecting 2.7. We're projecting 1.7 for next year, which is a decrease of 974. And when you look at that number in totality, it's not just the children going to school there. We also contract with BOCES for vision services, teacher of the deaf, bilingual services, and evaluations. So it's not just the student attending that location. There's other items that BOCES in general supply to school districts. So we have 23 students in specialized programs. These are all state-approved schools. I'm not going to read them all to you, but for each of these locations, we might have more than 1 child there, and they are both day and residential for some of them. For example, Green Chimneys does day and residential. Anderson does day and residential. So we have 23 students receiving specialized programming. And here are the projected costs. So if you look here, 1.4 was a projected cost for this year. we're actually expecting the projected cost to increase by about $75,000. Tuition maintenance is a really difficult number to predict because we often get these bills on a few-year delay, and the same with dorm authority. So these are set by the state. It's a rate set by the state and a number of years on delay. So if you look at the 308 here and the 707 here, that's a pretty significant increase. But we know that we're projecting at 707 because already this year the bills have come in at 680. So we projected this amount last year for this year, and we're already at 680. So if you look at the BOCES, the out-of-district, the tuition, maintenance, charges, and dorm authority, overall, we're seeing a decrease in cost. And a lot of that is because of this BOCES piece right here, because we'll have a decrease of about $974,000. So overall, it'll be a decrease, even with that increase of tuition, maintenance, and dorm authority.
How does that happen?
Yeah, so it's set by the state, and it depends on new programs that open too. So if there's a new school that opens, they have a higher maintenance or dorm authority because they have less children in those locations. So it's divided out over a number of children. But schools that have been in existence for a longer period of time would have a less cost down. So it really does depend on what's available for children.
It's just a huge decrease in the BOCES cost.
Oh, yes. So we actually, the actual projected cost from last year to what we have spent this year is far less than what was expected to be last year.
I'm just boggling, because I don't think we have fewer students involved, and I don't suppose the people caring for them are getting paid any less. So is there some increase in the subsidy coming from elsewhere?
So one of it is the specialized school that you see. We have a higher cost there. So you may have a student where Dutchess BOCES, I'm going to say hypothetically, would have had a specialized program for that student, and that may not be because school districts are doing a really nice job of keeping children with us. So when a child may need a very specialized location, we would be looking at like Anderson Center for Autism as an alternative. Mm-hmm. All right, so looking at supplies and materials, in the 22-23 projected cost, some of it was funded under a federal grant. Our projected cost for 23-24 is $32,000. Obviously, it's an increase because we don't want to put supplies and materials on the grant anymore. We are looking at 611 and 619 being used for salaries because that is where you maximize your cost as opposed to putting, little teeny supplies and materials and fracturing out the grant. You want to maximize your grants. So we're switching that over to more of a human resources. And then subscriptions and software licenses. This is quite expensive because one of the things that makes it a higher cost is assistive technology. So if we have a child with a communication device, we have to download specific software on that device for that child to communicate, and it's individualized for each child. Used to be years ago, it was called the Dynavox. It was like these big boxes, and now we use iPads that we download the software onto. So services that we contract out for. So we contract out for vision, OT, PT, and speech. If a student is hospitalized at any hospital for whatever reason, there's always tutoring services provided. So that's another contract we have. We have something called Medicaid Management Consultant Services, and they help us maximize our return on Medicaid. We have a contract with Anderson Center for Autism for our parent counseling and training. So parent counseling and training is required if a child is identified as having autism or under that classification. We are required to have support in that area. We have the ARC Greater Hudson Valley for student vocational support, which is here at the high school. Those are job coaches that help our students learn job skills for out in the community. We have educational and management services, which is a stacking system for providing information to the state, because we do get some funding back to the state, depending on the cost of providing programming to that child. We have a contract with Hearing Works for all the FM services, which are the hearing services you hear where you might have hearing aids or, that need to be serviced. We have independent evaluators that are contracted. We have specialized assistive technology, like I already mentioned, home tutoring, and then a board-certified behavior analyst. So our contracted cost, our projected cost was $290 this past year. Our projected cost for next year is $664, so it is an increase of $374. Here's the IDEA. This is our full amount. So we got, between the two grants, we got just under $900,000. And as you can see, we put a lot of those contracted services on here. But when you do it this way, you don't maximize the amount of money you're getting from the federal government. So the recommendation that I have made is that we use this funding for salaries, which offsets the general fund, and we provide a different funding line for our things like contracting and supplies and materials. So we can get all the money we can from the federal government. And this is just the 619 grant. So here's our Medicaid information. So these numbers were run for you a little differently in the past. This is the actual school year. So this is July 1 through June 30th. So this is what was claimed that year, not what was anticipated to be claimed. So if you look each year, this is the year, COVID is your year here where you had the lowest amount. And now we're slowly working our way back up. So this 205 is from July 1 to March 22nd. So we'll have more money coming in, but that's the amount we have received back thus far. And here's the overall budget amount. So all of those numbers that I just described for you is an overall reduction of about $99,000 overall. And again, like you can see the parentheses show the decrease, the non-parentheses show the increase. And this is with also moving about $900,000 for salaries instead of being on this line. So here's just a visual of where the majority of the finances. So you can see BOCES is the blue and out of district is the red. And then the rest would be like the tuition and tuition maintenance, and then the contracted services. So here's some professional development that we're recommending for next year, and I did provide a few pictures. So up here on the left and right here in the middle is our speech pathologists, OT, and one of our chair people. I don't know if they were both there. I think only one was there during this training on assistive technology and augmentative communications. So there's so many things out there now. You can take your iPhone and take a picture and it talks to you. So they came in to provide professional development on, taking a picture and putting it in your drive. Over here on the right, I met with the social workers and psychologists to talk about resources in the community for providing supports to families, and they provided an extensive list that we've put together. And then down here on the right and over here on the left is a picture of the safety care training. So safety care, we sent 5 teachers, one from each elementary school and a psychologist from the middle school, to safety care training. And it was an extensive training. And then there's turnkey training. And this is an example of the 6 hours that was provided to teaching assistants and aides. And then there was another 4 hours after school. The feedback was fantastic. We've had a lot of people now ask for this training. And I'm going to say it's a de-escalation training is the best way I could describe it. It's how not to engage with students and take yourself a little bit back and even tap out if you need someone else to help you but rather than bringing a higher level of energy to a situation, how to calm yourself and also know how you're feeling regulated. So that's why we were talking about it with like with bus drivers and social workers and teachers. The feedback has been incredibly positive. So there's different modules. We've picked 10 in particular that really talk about knowing yourself, knowing your own triggers, knowing how you're feeling stressed, maybe even walking into a situation. Maybe you're not the best person to have that conversation with the child. And then, so we're looking at therapeutic crisis intervention training, which is very similar. The difference, I would say, between safety care and therapeutic crisis is after the event is over, very soon after with therapeutic crisis, you meet with the child and go through the whole thing from start to beginning. What happened? Why did you feel that way? There's a lot more words with therapeutic crisis. Safety care, I have found to be more successful with younger students, where they may not have all that ability to go through the verbal steps after an event has happened, or even identify their feelings. Wilson reading, which I'm sure Sagi will go through, and then co-teaching development for our co-teaching teams. So I wanted to say a shout out to the foundation. This is an actual example of boards that they have purchased for us, and I appreciate your patience. We really struggled to find a vendor that we could work with. This board that you're seeing here with all these icons, we received feedback from the students. We received feedback, I talked to parents about it. We received feedback from the speech pathologists and the teachers. So this is unique to Beacon, what you're seeing. We are purchasing multiple for all the buildings. So it can be on playgrounds, it can be in PE spaces, so that all the children can engage, because it's hard to carry an iPad when you're going to PE. So this will be available to them. And a lot of it mirrors the icons that are on the boards of the current children in the district. So thank you. That's fantastic.
Is that at all the schools? Or?
Yes, all the schools. The foundation provided us with enough money to, it wasn't the intention. Originally, I was looking at just the elementary buildings, but we were able to partner with someone in Beacon to make these cool boards. So excited. So they're coming in. And it's funny, one of the things was the struggle about snow. Like if snow was a high priority, if you're going to put it out on the playground, and then it didn't snow. So originally it was going to be like something that was like more of a permanent structure. And the more we talked about it, the more we were discussing it's probably better to be able to move it to where the locations are and replace it if we need to, because the children are also going to have different needs as they age, and we have different children coming in, so we want to be able to make sure that we can also change it if we need to. So it wasn't this, $20,000 board on one playground and no one else have access to it. So, yeah. So it'll be here at the high school too. It'll be everywhere. All right. Thank you for listening. Any questions?
I'm sure you did explain that board, the icons, but exactly like how they're used. I can explain it.
This the board. So if there were some specific things that you could buy a pre-made board. You could go to Amazon and get a pre-made board.
But what kind of board is it? Like, what is that for exactly?
So if a child wanted to go play on the swings and they don't use their speaking voice, they would go over here and touch this board, or they would take their friend over to the board and touch that board. And that's, and it has things like that they need the nurse, or because the communication boards are harder to use when a child's outside playing or in PE and running around. So this gives them a voice. Yeah.
Amazing.
Any other questions?
Great presentation.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah,
I'm
my
impressed that you have basically a flat budget. I'm sure Anne Marie's. Since we know other things have gotten more expensive, so thank you.
Yeah.
Really, that was an amazing.
Yes. Our last but not least presentation is Sagraria Rudisindo O'Neill with curriculum.
I have to say, I can't feel my nose. It is
One-
cold in here.
one thing- Sorry, just before
All right,
I.
good evening, everyone.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask, the Heather's presentation is not, we can't look at it.
I have to figure that out. Anne Marie just told me.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Okay.
So I'll fix it so that
Perfect.
that everyone can use it.
Awesome, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, no worries. Good evening, everyone. I think everyone knows who I am. Dr. Sagrario Rudecindo O'Neill. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Student Support here in the Beacon City School District. So I wanted to talk about our professional development goals for next year and how that would impact the budget. So I want to first start taking it by different subject areas, and then we're going to go into pedagogical practices for PD. So English language arts, one of the things that we are doing and we're going to continue to support next year in Beacon, we're going to continue our support of Foundations, which is under the Wilson umbrella. Foundations is what our K-2 students are being taught. It does follow the science of reading, so it is supported by the science of reading. It's Orton Gillingham based. Our special education teachers are being trained in full Wilson. So Foundations is an offset of Wilson because it's just 30 minutes a day. It's meant to be a prevention and intervention program, not a special education program. So next year, any teachers that change grade levels who have not been trained, any new hires, we're going to make sure that they get trained. We're going to also support them after school when needed as well. We are also going to continue to support our teachers in Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions in the classroom. And what that is, we have been supporting teachers to ensure that they have scientifically research-based strategies, again, supported by the science of reading to be able to support students within their classrooms. So that's something that we've been working very, very hard on supporting our teachers with, as well as the integration of our culturally authentic texts within our classrooms and common assessments. So we've been doing a lot of curriculum mapping these past 2 years. We are now entering where we're looking at common assessments. One of the things that we focused on when we were doing curriculum mapping is ensuring that our units of study are aligned to our next generation standards. This year, we're supposed to be full implementation of our standards. So last year and the year before, we were making sure that what was teaching was really aligned and linked to the standards. Now we're going to look at assessments and ensuring that our assessments are aligned to the standards and not assessing skills. Because our skills need to be assessed ongoing within the classroom through informal assessments, but our actual common assessments that we use to grade our report cards should be based on assessing the standards. So we've been working and pivoting towards that. It's not something that most folks are used to. So we do have someone from BOCES that's working with us to kind of explain the difference between assessing skills versus assessing standards. When we have common assessments, then we're going to talk about looking at report card. Our report card right now does need to be updated. It is not aligned to the new standards, but you can have a new report card unless you have common assessments. So that's one of the things we're going to be working on. In math. So again, continuing to support our teachers in the next generation standards to make sure that they are aligned to our standards. Looking again at common assessments to assure that we are actually looking for proficiency within the standards, not just skills and arithmetic. And also ensuring that we're supporting our teachers, particularly our upper grade teachers, in interventions within the math classroom. So as we know, we are still being affected by COVID. Our students have had very diverse learning experiences. We want to make sure that we have a support model in math as well. We focus a lot on reading, but we have a lot of students that really have not had the opportunity to have that automaticity and that fluency in some of the foundational skills in math, which is affecting them when they go into the higher concepts. So we're trying to provide our teachers, particularly 6 through 12, some skills where they're able to work with students that perhaps need some more support in some of those foundational skills so they can understand the higher concepts. In science. So this year at the elementary level, we implemented for the first time Science 21. Science 21 is fully aligned to the next generation standards, which is why we selected Science 21. Next year, we'll be moving down to 3rd grade and 2nd grade. The goal is that every year, 2 grades are added. Science 21 does not go to secondary level. This is only an elementary program. So by the end in 2025, K through 5 will be fully trained in Science 21. Part of the reason why we wanted to ensure that Science 21 was implemented is because this year our 4th graders did not take the state test, the science state test. That was finally eliminated because they will be taking the new 5th grade test next year. And this is the last year for our 8th graders to take the old science test, which was from 1996 standards, and they will be taking a new science test. So we want to make sure that we prepare our students because, again, it is aligned to the next generation standards. Now, you will see their investigation labs. So that is something that New York State, in order to assure that, again, we are adhering to the new standards, they are asking for a separate type of assessments in grade 3, 4, and 5. So the goal is that at the end of elementary school, our students are exiting elementary school with 4 labs that they have completed, that we have documented that they have completed, and that we can send that documentation up to the middle school. And in the middle school, they are also required to fulfill 4 investigation labs. They need to conduct them, they need to document them, and then they send them off to high school. And any student in New York State, if they transfer into our district, they're supposed to actually bring proof that they have done some of these labs. So if a 5th grader came in, they should come in, hopefully, that they've done 3, bless you. If they have not done the 3, then we are responsible then to ensuring that they do 4 by the time they exit. So in order to support that, we are training teachers in understanding how to actually conduct these labs, because it's not that we're really, bless you, we're not really sending it to the state, but their idea is that these investigation labs are going to help our students then do well on the 5th grade test, on the 8th grade test, but also is to enhance STEM and ensure that every student has an opportunity to engage in that inquiry model. And part of that is also that we have to order supplies to do these labs. So that was an unexpected cost. So I just wanted to show you the New York State P12 science implementation, development, adoption, and implementation. So if you look at the timeline, this was started, the standards came out really around 2016 was the adoption of the standards. COVID kind of adjusted this timeline a bit. But if you look in 2022, 2023, the expectation is that we are in full implementation. And as you see next year in 2024, we'll have the 5th grade science test in our new 5th grade science test, and then a new 8th grade science test. But then in June of 2025 will be a new biology regions, earth science, and space science regions exam. And then in 2026, there will be a new chemistry and physics regions. So we are working very hard in supporting our teachers and ensuring that their units of study, K-12, are aligned to the next generation standards. Because if they're not, then they're going to struggle with these new assessments. Social studies. So social studies also has their own set of standards. They came out in 2017. It also follows an inquiry-based framework. We are, again, going to be supporting our social studies teachers, K-12, and ensuring that they have support in aligning to the New York State standards. And we do have a group of teachers right now that are working on, along with Mr. Dwyer, on doing the application for the SEAL Civic Readiness. We're going to continue to support them. Hopefully try to pilot something next year. They've been working very, very hard this year in trying to get this done. And then how we're going to continue to support our teachers through research-based pedagogy. So one of the things that we have been working on extensively this year is our response to intervention model. We have moved from calling in RTI committees into instructional support teams. So we do have a TOLSA who has been working with the teachers on Tier 1 and Tier 2 classroom interventions. Again, that's about giving teachers those tools and strategies that they need to work with students within the classroom. Our goal is to ensure that our students are being educated in the general education environment with the supports that they need. If they need something more, they have gone through the Tier 1, Tier 2, and then they will go to our instruction support team for perhaps more support. One of the things that we are supporting our teachers in and training our teachers in on curriculum-based measures, CBMs. And that's kind of when I talked about assessment and having common assessments. So the CBMs is teaching teachers how then to monitor those skills that our students need in order to be proficient in the standards, being able to track within their classroom when students need extra support, have data analysis, be able then to come to a team so that we can unpack what a student may need. One of the things that we're looking towards is creating student learning profiles as opposed to just saying that a student needs help or a student's at risk. We want to eliminate that deficit language and looking more at student learning profiles and a support model, which is why we've been working very hard at reframing our response to intervention framework. Next year, we do have a person right now who's been doing a lot of this work, working with the teachers, helping realign the framework, as well as creating folders where there's resources and tools that the teachers can use. We are expanding that position to 2 positions for next year, just for the fact, K8, just for the fact that it's a lot of work. Being able to touch base with teachers, support them. So it was a lot for one person. So we will be using 2 people next year and see how that model goes. And of course, we want to expand our AIS math supports to include a classroom teacher to further support our students who are receiving academic intervention service in math. Then our social emotional learning. So we will continue with our TOSA position, who will be supporting our classroom teachers. Again, it's for classroom teachers on responsive techniques within their classroom. Our TOSA is also going to continue their training on responsive classroom and use those techniques to then turnkey it to the classroom teachers. As I kind of mentioned before, so we are going to be doing a lot of professional development on the creation of common assessments, ensuring that people understand what we mean by common assessments, creation of rubrics across grade and content areas. This will allow us to have some cohesion across grade levels. So when we're looking at a report card, a 3 means a 3 whether you're at Glenham, whether you're at South, whether you're a sergeant, because we have rubrics that kind of dictate and guide us into how we're supposed to grade. We are going to be talking at the high school level, introduction of problem-based learning and portfolio assessment. One of the things that the state is looking at, as part of the Blue Ribbon Commission, we are talking about the Regents exams and the possibility of there being an alternative to Regents exams. And if that's the case, then portfolio assessments will be something that teachers need to be trained in order for them to understand how to develop a portfolio assessment, how to create a portfolio assessment, how to create a rubric for a portfolio assessment, and then also then support students on how to create a portfolio assessment in lieu of a Regents exam.
Does that just mean looking at a student's overall body of work, or what is portfolio?
Yes, it could be. Right now, they're already looking at that in the arts, having a portfolio assessment that a student can present, and it would be like a body of work.
Okay.
The tricky thing about portfolio assessments is really creating a clear criteria that everyone understands. So it can't be that Beacon is looking at it one way while Wappingers is looking at it differently. So that's kind of the tricky thing about portfolio assessment, but it is something that's being discussed heavily. And BOCES is already looking at supporting us in that. Do you have a question?
Would it still go to the Regents approval?
Yes. Well, they're looking at different pathways. So again, it may be an advance versus a Regents, but it may have the same value. Yeah, so, but don't quote me yet on that. We're working on it. We're working on it. So next year, we want to continue our professional learning activities around curriculum mapping. We now have over 40 teachers across the district that are doing curriculum mapping in ELA, in science. We're getting some social studies people on board now. So it's very exciting because, again, people are more willing now to do mapping, making sure that they're aligned to the standards. Heather talked a little bit about safety care training as well as TCI, so we're going to continue to support that, to expand that, to ensure that everyone has the training, as well as Wilson Language Program. We want to make sure that our special education teachers, that all of them are trained in Wilson and continue the work. Hopefully we'll even have someone who maybe could be trained to be able to be a trainer within our school district. Wilson is very big on having people fully trained. That way they don't have to do it. It ends up being a cost savings if you have someone in-house who can do the training for you. There's a specific thing that you have to do with them to get step 1 certification, but it'd be great if we can have someone in-house being able to do that. We're going to continue supporting, of course, culturally responsive practices, our work with Dutchess Pride, Dutchess Mediation Center. One of the things that we did this year that we would like to continue for next year, Science 21 is going to require substitutes in order for the teachers to get training. It was very difficult getting substitutes. As you know, like bus drivers, there's a shortage of subs. This year, we did do some PD around foundations after school and before school, and that was actually very successful. So one of the things that we are looking at is offering professional development in all these different areas, possibly after school and before school, and pay people to come, just for the fact that it's very, very difficult throughout the school day to actually do training, and it doesn't give you enough time. Which leads me to our summer PD session hours. So we are looking at creating a summer learning academy. Many of the sessions that we offered on March 10th, our PLD day, a lot of the teachers would like more extensive work in those topics. So this summer we are going to be repeating a lot of those topics, as well as doing professional development around curriculum mapping. And we're going to be offering them throughout the summer, so the sessions will be repeated, and they'll be 2 to 3 hour sessions. So they'll have more time to get a little deeper into the topics, become more proficient, have an opportunity to possibly start planning for the September. And as well as we want to partner with Nassau Policies and offer ENL PD to our staff, as well as to our ENL teachers. One of the things that our ENL certified teachers have to have at least 50% of their professional learning hours must be on the topic of teaching ENLs. I'm ENL certified, but it's hard for me. So my staff is me, myself, and I. So there's only so much of me that can kind of go around. But being able to, they actually offer over 50 different topics at a minimal charge, and of course it's aidable, so they'll be able to sign on and do a lot of virtual lessons and sessions and get their PD hours.
What's ENL again?
Oh, I'm sorry, English as a New Language Teachers.
Okay. It used to be...
It used to be ESL.
Okay.
Yeah. For fun, they like to change it. Well, it was also the realization is that for a lot of folks, English is not a second language. English may be a third and a fourth language, which is why it's now English as a new language in understanding and respect of that. Yeah. Got it. So budgetary implications. So again, we're going to be working through Dutchess County BOCES. We'll have 28 days of professional development support. We will not be doing any iReady training next year, so there's a cost savings there. We are all trained very well in iReady, so that's done. We will be offering ENL PD services, which will also be for our general education teachers. According to the state of New York, we do have to provide 50% of our professional development has to be also focused on ENLs. Purchasing of our investigation science materials, of course, our Science 21 hands-on kit and PD. The continuation of the iReady Teacher Toolbox resource, so not PD, but the resource that they're using. Substitutes for coverages, per session hours for curriculum mapping, PD, after school. Also, we want to continue to support our building level administrators. And again, most of the professional development will be through our BOCES. Therefore, it will be aidable, because what's aidable is sustainable. So I did not add everything up because I'm still waiting for the numbers from BOCES, but everything that's in green, including the top, is all through BOCES. The yellow would be our Summer Learning Institute, so that won't be through BOCES. Some of the trainers will be through BOCES, but the actual cost of paying teachers. And then our science investigation materials, that's an outside company that's going to be doing it, Science 21. They are unable to provide the investigation lab, so we have to outsource that. And then one of the things that we want to be able to support our teachers is we want to make sure that they have decodable readers in their classroom. That's K through 3. Part of our support within the reading program is that our teachers need to start pivoting away from leveled readers. Not that the level readers can't be in the classroom, but when they're actually doing small group instruction.
I don't know.
So level readers is one of the assessments that we give our students is called Funtus and Pinnell reading assessment. It's a reading inventory. And it actually, when you have a student read, and you kind of mark off how they're doing as they're reading, and then you ask questions. And the combination of the coding, the words that they actually know, and the questions that they can answer gives you a level. So a level may be a letter. So if you had students at the elementary, the teacher might say, oh, they're reading at R, they're reading at N. So we started talking about last year, because what they did with those levels, then they did small group instruction. So they would get all the kids of the same level together and work on those particular skills. So starting last year, we did talk about really grouping students by ability versus level. So we started kind of doing that. We're going to be more explicit this year, and we're going to really focus on ability versus levels, because the levels, within 2 weeks, they're no longer accurate because students continue to learn. So if you're at a particular level, you stop being that level after 10 days. With a decodable reader, it's more about your ability as you're learning to read. So we're going to pivot away from that, but they need the resources in order to do it. So they need these decodable readers, which are set up a little differently than your leveled readers. So the level readers can be used for comprehension. When you want to have kids together for comprehension, they can still be used for read alouds. But for the actual explicit teaching of reading, we need decodable text to do that.
And by decodable, do you mean like phonemic awareness?
Yes,
Okay.
phonemic awareness. So if you were doing for example, digraphs, which are 2 letters that make 1 sound, you want a book that reinforces that skill, that the students can practice it. A leveled reader won't give you that.
And then you would be able to understand if they're not progressing in that skill, as opposed to they could be understanding the overall context of the story and seeming to be a level,
right,
but not really possessing the skill of decoding.
Correct. Using pictures as a way.
Yeah. I have a dyslexic kid who, did this for a long time. So I know that. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And again, having our money set aside for our curriculum map and continuing our curriculum map, and of course, our RISE after school program. Questions?
Can you talk a little bit about what that updated report card looks like?
So, and this wouldn't be even next year because we have to do our common assessments, but we need to start having conversations around updating our report card so they reflect the standards that we're now using for the state of New York. So right now, if you look at the report card, it's not aligned to the next generation standards. So, and it doesn't, and it takes like a year to develop a new report card, because some districts have done it where they've taken all the standards and all the criteria of the standards, and they have done all of that, or if they've taken parts of it. So it's a huge I actually have samples of report cards from other districts that we could use as kind of like exemplars, but there would need to be a committee. It's extensive work, which is why when people have brought it up, I said, I'm not even going to talk about report cards until we get common assessments, because we can't do one without the other.
Can you give one example of an item that would be on a new report card?
So, for example, if you go on the New York State website, under reading, so you would actually see reading R1, which talks about students are able to comprehend literature, and so you would actually see that language, the language of the standards, on the report card.
I think that's great. I think especially with assessment, it actually, once you cross the barrier of assessment, because no one likes that word, right? Because you feel like you're doing more work.
Right.
But when you realize that with assessment, if you do it in your everyday classroom and then it's a part of your report card eventually, it's just what you're doing. The same way teachers were in the habit of doing certain grades because they just kind of knew that was what the grade was for. When you explain an assessment, like you said, not necessarily in the ability of are they doing the task, but actual assessment of what you're actually trying, like R1, like are you actually doing R1? It actually helps that teacher be a better teacher when they understand, not that they're not, but when they understand the assessment side of it. It always stays in the back of their mind. I'm in the middle of doing an assessment right now for my job, so it's like, what can I do every day that's habit with my students or with that whatever that when it's time for me to assess, it was already happening. And so, like with the report card, once you figure out how to do the assessment, when the report card comes, it's not going to be an added task, but you have to do the assessment.
You'll have everything in front of you. It's like, I already have what I need in order to be able to fill out this report card.
And I think it would help with progress reports too, right? Because those are sometimes so generic. It'll really help a teacher and a parent and a student really know what their progress is based off of that standard,
right?
Than just maybe where they are on their task for the last however many assignments were for that progress report.
And again, COVID kind of interrupted because I know everyone was already getting trained on standards and stuff like that. And then we had this 2-year interruption. So it's almost like we had to kind of like start all over again, you know, and kind of start looking at how do we do this? How do we align it? And again, I'm very impressed. Teachers have done a lot of really great work. We're using the software Atlas that you saw on there. All our maps are on there. And the nice thing is they get to be revised constantly. So it's not this thing that, oh, I did it, I'm done, you know, and we have a really great person at BOCES. She's better than I am. She's very good at kind of, you know, walking around and she'll say, oh, let me ask you a couple of questions. So she's very good at directing the teachers kind of back to, because we get used to doing certain things in a certain way, you know, and kind of like always going back to the standard. Well, what does the standard say? Well, what do we say here? How do we know? You know, and so she's very good at doing that. And they really like her. She's got a really nice way about her. So, yes?
So with the end of like elementary level state testing, how will standardized tests work for elementary schools now? Like, will there be a way to rank schools anymore? On the elementary level?
Unfortunately, that's an APPR that will still exist. But what they're doing is, though, the Office of Accountability has changed some of the language that they're using around schools that need support. They're actually calling it a support model. So I went to a meeting where they talked about, because basically the lowest 10% of schools in the state are schools that get identified, and they use the state scores as a way to identify schools. So what they wanted, they don't want it to be a punitive thing. They want it more of, if your school is struggling, they want to be able to help. And it might be, like, for example, if Beacon were identified, our thing here is we don't have a lot of kids that actually take the test. So what ends up happening is when half the kids don't take the test, every student who didn't gets a 0 added in because they still do it based on the 95% participation. So it's not necessarily that we may be a district that needs support. They may just say, oh, well, maybe you can have a parent meeting. Maybe not everyone knows what our assessments are, blah, 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 and they'll make suggestions like that. So they're still going to use that because that's a federal guideline, not a state guideline.
So what are some of the differences between the new state tests and the old state tests?
So the new state tests are going to be aligned to our new standards. So that's really the only difference. So, and actually, I like our new state standards more than I like the Common Core.
Okay.
I think the Common Core, some of the elements were not developmentally appropriate at some grade levels, so. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
On the professional development, how much of that list is a wish list and how much of it is funded in our present budgetary thinking?
Oh, it's all there, right, Emery?
We have a little bit
Emery's
more.
been very generous to me.
We have more flexibility
it's all
with PD right now because of the federal funds. So we're able to do a little bit more in that department.
This is looking more than what we did in the past, though, right?
No, I mean, depending on the year, we had some years that we were able to do that much.
I'm wondering if the younger teachers are more open to professional development and more excited than, say, the older teachers. To say that nicely.
Very entertaining. So no, no, I have to say, I think what we always need to do is we need to give teachers what they ask for. So we have been working very hard and asking them, what is it that you would like to see? Where do you need support? And I think if you give people what they're asking for, they're more engaged, and they don't look at it as like, oh, what's next?
Right.
You know, and so I think my experience here going into 2 years is that I'm not seeing disengagement from teachers. I'm pretty persistent anyway, but I think they're open. They're open and they want to do a good job, you know, and they want to make sure they're being listened to. So they don't want to sit there and go through something that is not relevant to them. In the same way we don't want to do that to our kids, you know, we can't do that to our teachers. We have to respect them and give them what they need.
wasn't it was it last summer or whatever, the gym teachers, physical education teachers, they had like a separate, they did something that was more geared towards.
Yeah, they went out last year, they went out this year. So if there's something on the outside,
but it
send
goes
them
to giving them something that they want, than sitting there being like, this again, I already have this. How does this pertain to me? And
exactly. Yeah. You know, and every here and there we have like one or two teachers that are kind of outliers. That are kind of like on their own, that I'm very honest. I say, I don't know what to give you. Because, you know, they're so specialized.
Right.
So I will tell them, I said, if there's a place that you want to go, we'll just send you. And they're like, yeah, can I go here instead? I'm like, absolutely. You don't need to listen to what's going on, because it has to be what they need.
Right.
Any other questions?
I have one more question. For responsive classroom, is that primarily elementary school teachers? Is it elementary and middle?
It's K-8. Our TOSA has been working with some middle school teachers as well and because she's turnkeying this, so we can't call it responsive class, so we say responsive practices.
Okay.
But all her training is coming from responsive classroom. So she has been working with some middle school teachers. And I don't know, I didn't touch on it, but next year, one of the areas that we really want to focus on is supporting our special area teachers with responsive practices. Because being a special area teacher is very different than being a classroom teacher. So we want to give them some supports.
At this point, what percentage of K through 8 teachers would you say have been trained in responsive practices?
Well, I know like Glenham, the whole school kind of does it, because I know they have it like, they even have a separate schedule where they're following the model of responsive classroom. Last summer, we trained over 20 teachers in responsive classroom.
It's a
So I know, I
training.
think Matt knows more of the history, because it started before I got here.
Right. It's to do like the first level officially. It's a 4-day training. I could look it up, but I think it's probably around 50 to 60% of the elementary teachers have had the 1-week training. It's tricky because it's a full week, and sometimes it's hard to have someone give that up in the summertime. But so we've been trying to kind of fill in the cracks, so to speak, with this TOSA position and her just doing kind of on the spot training. And I think a case could be made that, you know, you can do some of these things without, you know, you can do a lot of this stuff without having officially done the 4-day training.
Right.
So we're trying to figure out ways to kind of do both, like formal training and a little less formal, to get everybody.
Yeah. And actually on March 10th, PLD Day, so our TOSA actually did three sessions of responsive classroom type things. So she did a whole thing on energizers. She did a whole thing on mindfulness. So she did 3 sessions, and they were full. So people could sign up, and then there were certain groups that were mandated to go. So for example, I asked all the special area teachers who were still in the building to go to those sessions.
Right.
So they had some of it, yep.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do our student representatives have any comments they want to share with us? Okay, everybody good? Ready for spring break?
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
I have a question about like the general status of DCC. That's like the situation's.
Just where we are. We're kind of basically not much has changed with DCC. We're collectively trying to work on a memo of understanding between the 13 school districts in Dutchess County and DCC. So that's in progress. I received an email just today that this may not be the most exciting development, but I think it's a positive development, that the BOCES superintendent was at a meeting in Albany today, and that I don't know the details, so I'm just sort of generally sharing this, but they're looking at ways to fund the DCC tuition through BOCES, which essentially what that means is we'd be able to do it at a discount And then the general attitude in this meeting was that they're starting to really look at this, that all the advocacy that's taken place in Dutchess County from a lot of the people in this room, that it's kind of shined a light on it at the Albany level with the commissioner and her staff. So in short, it looks like there may be a way that we can run the tuition process through BOCES, which means we might get state aid back on it, which is like means we get a discount. Beyond that, it sounds like there's starting to be a conversation more at the Albany level of why are we doing it this way, and maybe we should change it. But that's just a conversation. But I think the takeaway that I got from the email I received today was that the advocacy that, you students did and some of the board members did, or all the board did, made a difference. And I think for a little while, I think you all were sort of being told to like be quiet or not, don't come to the meeting. But I think, I think that got up to people like the commissioner and the deputy commissioner. And if you look at their value statements, it's not really in line with what they are saying, what their vision is for the state. So there's maybe some incremental steps that may be happening, and maybe some bigger ones. But with that said, I do know, I don't know this at a deep level, but I know the SUNY system as a whole is having some financial issues, and that's kind of been talked about in this budget process at state level. So there's a lot of different things at play. But I do think the advocacy from Dutchess County and from places like Beacon really made a difference in terms of getting people to look at this again.
Would continued advocacy help? Is it something where
I think
letters?
So. I mean, even the sort of the discount or I shouldn't say discount, the reduced tuition that students who get free introduced lunch. My understanding is that's just been stated for this year.
Yeah.
So, like it was, these things are always posed as like doing us a favor. And so I think there should be continued advocacy. I think, I don't know, in my mind, it's something that there shouldn't be a lot of roadblocks for stuff like that.
Yeah, and it feels like them acknowledging that it should go through BOCES, sort of, we could use that to just further define how this belongs in our programming a little bit.
Right.
So, yeah, we should talk about maybe.
I mean, I do think it opens the conversation. And again, I'm kind of speaking in broad strokes here, but like a student who goes to the career program at BOCES and receives maybe some sort of certificate, in that trade or that specialty career, doesn't get charged.
Right.
Like we pay for that.
Yeah.
I mean, we should pay for that. Like the district pays and the state pays for that. So why should a student in high school who's getting college credit be charged? Like I think the BOCES involvement in this will maybe start moving in that direction. But I wasn't at this meeting. It was a 1-paragraph email report I got, but it was like basically the gist was the advocacy is starting to make a difference, and people in powerful positions are starting to really question this. So thank you for asking.
The drive to Poughkeepsie was not for nothing.
Progress is progress.
No, I mean, right, it's like, oh, this could be run through a BOCES at Coaster. It's not like this giant victory, but it's a step, because I think for the deputy commissioner to say that, they never have allowed that in the past. So like that is a step. And I know it seems like a small step, but I think for them to start getting involved like this, it could actually have wider implications. And yeah, I mean, I think if you all go into that meeting at DCC and having to wait till the end of the meeting, right, to speak, and all of that extra effort you put in, that kind of stuff in the moment doesn't think like you're getting through. But then you have the deputy commissioner and the commissioner for Education in the state of New York talking about the advocacy in a meeting today, so that stuff does really make a huge difference. So thank you all for putting in all that extra time. It's really appreciated.
Anything else? I completely lost where I was in the agenda. Let's see.
Exact?
Yeah.
Yes, reviewing the agenda, there are no additions or corrections. Exact. Can I have a motion to move to executive session to review the employment history of a particular individual and to discuss attorney-client advice? And the board will return in about 20 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Flora, second by Kristen. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm also in favor. Passes 7
Yeah,
to 0.
stretch it a little bit. We're going to try to keep it.
Next up is our superintendent's report.
Excuse me. All right, I will be pretty quick tonight. Awesome budget presentations tonight. It was really exciting to see all the things that we've been working on. Our next step with this is at the April 17th board meeting. Anne Marie and I will kind of try to tie it all together and talk about, just in a somewhat more district-wide view, all the things we're moving forward with, tax levy rate, all those kinds of things. And so April 17th, we'll try to pull all of this information together. Just a quick announcement. Families in the district should have received an email over the weekend, and then I think another one went out today. It kind of came together a little bit late, but sounds like there's a lot of interest in it. The PE teachers put together a intramural activity camp for K through 6 students for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of spring break. I think it's like in the morning, 9 to 12. So we have a number of PE teachers who are going to come in on those days and work with kids on fun activities. And from what I understand today, a pretty large number of people signed up pretty quickly. So that's just like yet another new thing that we're trying out. And then the last thing I just want to say is at the last meeting, I meant to do this, and there was just a lot going on at the last meeting, and regrettably I forgot. But I just want to take a minute and thank Anthony Zhang for his years of service to the board. I know the board accepted his resignation at the last meeting, but he was part of the board that hired me. I think his tricky question started during the interview process with me, and went all the way through the last 6 years. But all those questions were always about students, always about creating more opportunities for students. He was always a passionate advocate for the student experience in the district, for being a welcoming district, and a huge leader in the community around diversity. And so if he's paying any attention at all to these meetings anymore, I just want to say thank you for all of his service and his support on a personal level of me over the years. So thank you.
Thank you. Board comments. Kristen?
None. I will say great presentations tonight. There was a lot of work that went into them and a lot of thought, and it was so appreciated.
Thank you. John?
No comment.
Eunice?
Yes, thank you. We had a meeting, the Wellness Committee had a meeting last Thursday, and hopefully we will have a wellness policy coming our way pretty soon, since we got through that and would like to move it along.
Awesome.
So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alina?
Same about the presentations today. I thought they were very informative, very understandable.
It's a big deal.
That's huge.
Yes.
So it was really good, and just proud of where we're going, where we're trending for the new academic year.
Thank you. Craig?
I'm glad we could get 3 presentations in today. Sometimes I think we miss subjects because we think it's going to take too much time, but it's time well spent. And I have notified the board that this will be my last term, that I will not be seeking re-election.
Thank you. Flora?
I just wanted to mention, and it might have gotten mentioned at the last meeting, but I wasn't here, in case you didn't know, that both of the One House budgets for the state Senate and Assembly included universal free school meals, which I thought was amazing and a positive step forward. And thank you to the PTOs and PTAs who have been helping us to share our advocacy message and get their school communities involved. And that's it for this week.
Thank you. I have a few things. Let's see. First, Sigario sent me notes from the last curriculum committee meetings, and I'm just going to read through it for everyone. They went over new courses at the high school, and I guess it's not for certain that all of these courses will run, but I think they're really exciting, so I wanted to read them off. In English, AP African American Studies, Intro to Hip Hop, Film as Literature 2, Magical Realism in Literature 2, the sequel, English Honors 11, and Greek Mythology. And then in Math, Financial Math, Honors Algebra 2, Honors Geometry. In Science, Principles of Neuroscience. In Foreign Language, Italian Cinema. And in Music, Guitar, and Music Production. Committee also discussed the expansion of Science 21 to grades 3 and 2 and providing science professional development to grades K through 2 and 6 through 12. And discussion regarding the New York State Sciences investigations in grade 3 through 8. Thank you for that.
I want to take those classes.
Do we know like when those classes would be like?
Well, I think some of it's due to interest is the biggest reason. So I think they're in the catalog.
We had a conversation about putting just everything on the catalog, so it was there,
Mhm.
because it was being done in the past. If we weren't sure it was going to run, it wasn't put on the catalog, and then people were resubmitting new proposals for things that were already approved. So we figured let's just put it there. That way it's done one time, and then if it runs, it runs, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. Yeah, but it is based on interest. Do we know if the AP was African American? Did that get approved? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, my son
So
signed
it's
up for it.
My daughter did too.
Get it together. Yeah, it's really an exciting list.
Yeah.
Italian cinema, like, come on. And there's a curriculum committee meeting on Wednesday?
There is.
Okay, at 2:30?
It's at 3:30.
3:30, okay, that's actually better for me. Okay, so and here.
Well, we're doing it virtual, so it should be easier for you.
Oh, even
We
better.
had a couple of conflicts, so they asked if I could move it to virtual. I said, fine.
Okay,
If for whatever reason you have a conflict, I'll report it.
okay,
And then that way, on the calendar, you'll see it.
perfect. I think I can make that, so that's great. Couple other things. We had our policy committee meeting tonight. We pretty much, I think, except for some like small tweaks, finished our diversity, equity, inclusion policy. Thank you, Sigario, so much for your hard work on that, and I want to thank all the students and committee members from diversity committee that worked on it. I think it's a really strong policy. I'm really excited to share it with the rest of the board and for us to adopt it. I think it's a strong statement of our beliefs. So thank you for that. And Craig, I want to thank you for your service. You were part of the original cohort that, as they say, yeah, that really helped to stabilize the district when it was a little bit chaotic. So thank you very much for your service. It was really, we're very grateful.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have 2 roll call votes tonight. The first is the electric bus resolution. I'm just going to read it and then ask Vicki to do the roll call vote. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Beacon City School District hereby adopts the resolution authorizing the purchase of 1 electric-powered school bus for the city school district of the City of Beacon, Dutchess County, at a maximum estimated cost of $466,000, and authorizing the issuance of $466,000 in bonds of said school districts to pay the cost thereof. Vicki, do you mind doing a roll call vote?
Yes.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
Kush?
Yes.
Mr. White is not here. Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Stadler?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes. And then the second is our bus purchase resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Beacon City School District hereby adopts the resolution authorizing the purchase of school buses for the city school district of the City of Beacon, Dutchess County, at a maximum estimated cost of $530,000, and authorizing the issuance of $530,000 in bonds of said school district to pay the cost thereof.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Ms. Heath?
Yes.
Kush?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Stadler?
Yes.
Ms. Stewart?
Yes. Thank you. I'm really excited that we will have an electric bus on the ballot. Hopefully, we can work out all the complicated grants around it. Consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. Are there any items that any board members would like to pull from the consent agenda?
1103?
Is that 2340, the policy?
2340, yeah. We had some correspondence on that, I see.
Yep. Any others? Okay, can I have a motion to approve 11.01 through 15.04, less 11.03?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kristen, second by Eunice. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm also in favor, passes 7-0. Can I have a motion to approve 11.03?
So moved. Oh, okay. I'll second.
Moving by Flora, second by Kristen. Comments or questions?
Yeah, so this had to do with my comment about why not have committee meetings? And actually, I should clarify, I'm talking about board committees. I think you looked into that a bit with the NISBA, getting some response.
I did. I spoke to the legal department in NISBA, and they said that they would not recommend putting just any committees, but committees that are subject to open meetings law in the language. And so I think that would be easy enough to do. We would just add it to the very first sentence. So it reads now, for all regular and scheduled special meetings of the Board of Education. And I think maybe what I would suggest is for all regular and scheduled special meetings and committee meetings that are subject to open meetings law.
That's basically what I was getting at, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So do you want to make a motion to amend the?
Yeah, you have the text there?
So, no, I don't. The,
I think I have the,
for all, did I have it in the email? I mean, for all regular and scheduled special meetings of the Board of Education and committee meetings that are subject to open meetings law.
right.
Those are like the regular committee meetings that we have randomly.
It would be like not, like like policy, which ones are they? Policies, facilities, audit. Those are like board committees.
Yeah.
Where we do board business.
Okay.
So they are subject to open meetings laws, but is like wellness?
No, wellness is a district
Like a working
committee,
group, yeah.
as well as like diversity is a district
Diversity is,
committee. Yeah.
I think the underlying point is that there can be a lot of committees floating around, obviously including the Committee on Special Education, where by law the public can't come. Anybody who's supposed to come is given a direct notice. So, and there may be academic committees or other special committees that we have, and probably committees in this district that we don't even know about until we stumble upon them. But my thought here is that if we have meetings of our board committees, we have always considered them not only open to the public, but we've noticed them on our district calendar, our online calendar. as long as we're clear when they are and what they are. But it seems a little strange to me to just leave them out when, in fact, we walk the walk and we may as well talk the talk if these are meetings that are subject to the open meetings law. And even if nobody seems to normally attend, the fact that you keep the faith with the public in your policies is a starting point. And maybe at some point people will actually want to attend, or I know that when we had them on Zoom and we had them noticed as public meetings, occasionally somebody would show up online and lurk, but or even participate if the chair allowed. But that's my thinking on this subject, and I believe that what you just said as an amendment to the language would be quite fine.
So I'm going to make
just changing that language.
Yeah,
how we're
just
saying
exactly adding that. It doesn't. Those meetings are already
Right.
subject to this, so it's really just stating the obvious, but it is including it in. Yeah. Any other questions about that? Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to amend the language in policy 2340 to say for all regular and scheduled special meetings of the Board of Education, including committee meetings that are subject to open meetings law, comma. Can I have a motion to amend the policy?
So moved.
Craig, second by Kristen. Comments or questions? Okay, we're voting now on the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm also in favor, passes 7-0. Now we need to vote on the policy second read as amended.
So moved.
Thank you, Kristen. Second by Alina. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Me too. Passes 7-0. Thank you. That went so smoothly.
I know.
Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Second by Flora. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm also in favor. Passes 7-0. Have a great night, everyone.